Hi y'all! Welcome back to part 3 of the Passport Project Read Aloud. I'm Kellie McIntyre, author of the Passport Project. Part 1 was the bubble, part 2 was the world, and part 3 is the difference. Today I'll be reading a selection from chapter 22, Perspective. Delaney, 18. Dr. Rice's speech this morning was incredible. How am I supposed to follow that? My only advantage is that I'm relatable. Condoleezza Rice was once one of the most powerful people in the world. I'm just a girl from the neighborhood, their neighborhood. And I spent my middle school years sitting in those same bleachers listening to inspiring talks. Almost 500 kids file into the gym, heading to their designated sections. 6th on the left, 7th in the middle, and 8th on the right. Some walk in packs, others walk alone. Middle school is still middle school. I'm glad that's behind me. The 3 most memorable speakers that I've listened to in this gym are a concentration camp survivor from the Holocaust, a woman with brittle bone disease who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa, and our nation's former Secretary of State, Dr. Condoleezza Rice. No pressure at all. My heart pounds as the students clomp up the bleachers. Thanks to the famous Iceland locker room lesson, I know I won't die from embarrassment. At least I'm not naked. When the students get settled, the principal introduces my mom and me. I'm going first, then Mom. The irony of the situation is comical. 4 years ago, I literally bawled my way out of this building because of my parents' crazy dream. Today, I'm going to tell them how that crazy dream changed my life. I take a deep breath, squeeze my boyfriend's hand, and walk to the podium. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of earth all one's lifetime. These are the words of Mark Twain. My parents firmly hold this to be true, which is why, in my 8th grade year, my parents pulled me and my 7th grade sister out of school for 18 weeks. After years of fantasizing, they booked one-way tickets and decided to plan the rest along the way. This would not be a 5-month vacation in fancy all-inclusive resorts, but authentic travel featuring public transportation, hostels, and street food. So I spent half of my 8th grade year world schooling on a cheap laptop wherever I could find free Wi-Fi. I crammed entire chapters of math and science into one day after avoiding my schoolwork for weeks. Looking back, I can't recall any of my online lessons. I even repeated Algebra 1 my freshman year, but it is my real-world education that I will never forget. I learned that there is no perfect country. Each is great and not so great in different ways. Today, I'm going to share how I learned what is great about the United States of America. I learned that if I lived in Thailand, I'd probably be in prison. China, I would lose all of my online friends and followers. In Germany, I would have failed 8th grade. I also learned that Americans take so much for granted. In our country, where so many people are divided over racial and socioeconomic issues, we often overlook the privileges all Americans possess. If you've never traveled beyond your country's border, or your travel has been limited to resort destinations, it is easy to focus on what is wrong with our nation. However, even with our issues, and we definitely have them, the United States provides more freedoms and liberties than most countries. Let me share a few examples. Thailand and China taught me what freedom of speech really means. In China, we couldn't get on our social media or our personal website because the government blocks it. In Thailand, insulting the king can land you a spot on the next episode of Locked Up Abroad. Coming from a country where bashing the president, no matter who is in office, is our nation's favorite sport, I now understand the magnitude of freedom of speech. Fashion. Americans are accustomed to dressing however we want. Sometimes we have to follow dress code rules in school, but the rest of the time is a fashion free-for-all. But just because it's normal to wear shorts or strappy dresses here doesn't mean it's okay in other places. In many countries, we wore long pants and modest tops because of religious and cultural norms, no matter how hot it was. As travelers, it's important to respect the local customs, even if it means not wearing our favorite fashions. Education. I was fortunate that through homeschooling, I could continue my 8th grade education while exploring the world. But some countries, like Germany, do not allow homeschooling. Americans view European countries as having all the same freedoms we have, but that's not always the case. Furthermore, many countries do not provide free education for the children. If the parents cannot afford to pay the school fees, the kids don't attend school. Without education, these children cannot break the cycle of poverty in which they are trapped. Traveling has taught me far more than just about the places I have visited. I can pack enough clothing for any climate in a carry-on suitcase. I have learned how to sleep sitting up for 16 hours. I have learned to hope for the best and brace for the worst, because sometimes you can't predict being deported. Even when we think we are living our worst nightmare, Americans still have more liberties and privileges than most of the world. I understand that my parents have given me the biggest blessing, the opportunity to have my eyes opened. And I also understand that most people won't have the same opportunity. But you don't have to leave the country to leave your bubble. You can drive across town, open a book, or maybe just walk across the lunchroom and invite somebody to sit at your table. I challenge each of you to do 2 things to become better Americans. 1, seek opportunities to connect with people who are different from you. Your life will be enriched in ways that you cannot imagine. And 2, never forget what it really means to live in the land of the free. Thank you. As the students clap, I take my seat on the front bleacher. I rub my damp palms across my yellow dress. My heart is still racing when Mom begins. As she shares lessons we've learned from traveling the world, I think back to a conversation we had almost 5 years ago. Back when I blamed my parents for ruining my life. The most valuable souvenir that I've brought back from my travels wasn't the fake Hunter rain boots. It's so much bigger than that. Country by country, continent by continent, I picked up bits and pieces along the way, and I brought home the very thing I was missing: perspective. That is all for our selection from Chapter 22. I do hope you'll consider reading the chapter in its entirety. Until next time, dream big and travel far.